Welcome to Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the place for everything midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
Hello, everyone. This is Kelly Bailey, your podcast host. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to share today's episode. Reminder, I am in the Austin, Texas area and have a handful of midterm rentals on Furnished Finder and just can't get enough of it.
And hey everyone, I am Katie. I am also a landlord and property owner, but I am located in the Denver area. We are so excited to share Bob's episode with you today. Bob has set up like a classic house hacking situation for himself. And with a background in property management and construction, he has some really great tips for anyone who is interested in pursuing house hacking, or anyone who is even maybe already doing it and just is looking for some tips and tricks.
Welcome to the show, Bob. How are you today?
I'm well, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're very excited. What I want to know first is I am most intrigued by your career in property management. So why don't you give us some details about your experience?
I had a career back east in property management. I started out as a superintendent, this is ages ago, for a Boston-based management development company. Worked my way up. Within a year, I was assistant manager, and then I started with doing rent-ups of rehab schools and office buildings and that sort of thing that they converted into elderly private Section 8 housing for the elderly and handicapped. From there, I went to Hartford, Connecticut, and worked my way. We had an 800 apartment complex there, and then I became area manager for the Boston-based firm in Rhode Island as well. And then I got a job offer in Greenwich, Connecticut, and worked there for 5 years. And then by that time, that was about almost 20 years of work. I decided to leave property management and started buying houses, fixing them up, selling them. And I did that for about 8 years until I moved to Bermuda for 2 years, working at Michael Douglas's resort, Ariel Sands Beach Club. Stayed there a couple of years, came back, and I retired in 2012 and moved out to Tucson.
Sounds like a fun life.
It's been interesting. Yeah. So moved out to Tucson.
Yeah, what took you to Tucson, and what kind of property were you looking when you went there?
Well, originally, when I got out of the Marine Corps in 1972, my brother asked me to come out and visit him because I wasn't doing anything exciting after I had gotten out of the service. I ended up, when I left Connecticut there in February, there was 3 feet of snow on the ground. And I got out here and it was 83 degrees. And I went, I think I'll stay here for a while. So I did, and met my future wife, who was from New York. And we moved back east in 1980 after 8 years out here. So it's been interesting. And I've got other family out there now.
So 1980?
Yeah.
Is that how long you've been in Tucson? Is since 1980?
No, actually, I moved back from to Connecticut in 1980 from Tucson, where I had lived for 8 years. And then moved back here again in 2010.
Now, when you made that move back to Tucson, were you looking for an investment property, or was it something that just kind of happened by chance?
I was, looking for investment property. And I ended up retiring after a couple of years, bought another property, sold it, bought this one. When did I buy this one? 2017. And
Okay.
I moved into the one bedroom, which I'm renting out now, completely remodeled it, gutted it pretty much. And then I didn't renew the lease to my tenants that were living in the 2-bedroom. And I'm in the process now of remodeling the 2-bedroom, and I'm about half done. It's one of those things, if you own a home.
So it's a duplex.
Yeah. 2 units. This is a 2-bedroom. That's
Okay.
the one. Yeah.
Awesome. And you have your remodeling background. So what improvements have you made on the duplex while you're living in half, or even while guests are renting the other half?
I tore out all the vinyl flooring that was throughout the 1-bedroom, and completely I covered it with new ceramic tile, put an air conditioner in, new furnace, new hot water heater, put solar on the roof, solar panels. And in this place, I'm in the process now of putting up crown molding in the back bedroom, which I'm in the middle of remodeling. I put a Murphy bed in there. Had all the lumber cut, and I built the Murphy bed and put it in. And it keeps me busy. But I can't wait to be finished. I want to do some traveling.
Oh, nice. Where are you planning to travel to?
Well, if things calm down in the world, Europe, Eastern Europe. I've been to Europe 3 times, but there's a lot of countries that I've missed. So yeah, Italy, I'd love to go to there. I was in Greece when I was in the service in Athens for 3 weeks, and then Turkey and.
Awesome. My husband grew up in Greece.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, great spot. Got me pictures. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a picture on the wall over there of the Parthenon when I was there. So it's very cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, you said a few things that really intrigued me on your upgrades. Solar panels. That is a hot topic that, so many property owners decide, should I or should I not? So what made you choose to move forward with solar panels?
The tax credit. When I got it, it was 25% still. Now they've dropped it down. I think they're continuing it, but it's not as lucrative as it used to be. From what I've heard and read, and like everything else, I look into it before I jump into it. It can add as much as 10% to the value of your home. And of course, you get, eventually when it's all paid for, you get free electricity from the solar.
Right.
So it's
awesome.
And you're probably using a lot of electricity down there with
my God.
Arizona summers.
Yeah. Well, let me see. It's 101 in the shade right now on my porch. And the other day, it'll probably be about the same. It's about a high of 105, but they lie. I think it's a lot higher than that. It's probably going to be about 110 again today. Yeah, it's not my favorite time of the year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it gets hot. But that's why I put in air conditioning. We used to have the old swamp coolers. You ever heard of a swamp cooler?
Right. Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
It's an evaporative effect. Yeah. And outside, actually, a lot of restaurants and things, they have what they call misters, and they spray a mist of water into the air, and that's the evaporative cooling as well. But it's not really. It's good in the summertime, but when it's very dry, but in the when it gets we've got the monsoons officially starting tomorrow. And that's when the dew point's a lot higher, and the evaporative coolers just don't work as well. So the air conditioning, that's mandatory. As are the high electric bills.
Now, so this isn't your first time with an investment property, obviously, if you've bought many and improved them and sold them. So what made you decide this time around to get a duplex and kind of go the house hacking strategy of living in half and renting in half versus buying one unit just for yourself and continuing to do the flips?
My experience in owning properties that provided rental income, and it worked out. Let me see, I had my tenants in the 2-bedroom for, I think 3 years before, 3 years before I ended up going with what I started out as an Airbnb. And that lasted for
Okay.
a month. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember exactly how I heard about Furnished Finder. I lucked into it, I guess. And
Right. Because I'm curious how your Airbnb experience
I had a
was,
couple of
if it
guys
only
come
lasted a
down
month.
well, I listed the property, and 6 hours later, I had a tenant for a month with Airbnb.
Nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. That's what I said. I said, wow, that's pretty cool. So they were a couple of guys from Bend, Oregon, and I don't know exactly what they were planning down here. I think they were looking for jobs or whatever. But in any event, they stayed a month. And then just about the time that it was about halfway through the month that I found out about Furnished Finder, signed on with Furnished Finder. And within just about the time I was getting a little concerned, I had a 4-month nurse come in for 4 months.
Awesome.
And
That's
then
awesome.
just about the time I was going to get concerned, I had another 4-month there. And then, and it
Right.
just kept on rolling. So it's been,
Keeps
yeah,
going.
yes. And then after that, I had a person for a month. And then I might be getting these time frames wrong, but then I had a doctor
That's all
move
right.
in. He was an intern for the Tucson Medical Center. He stayed for 16 months. And
wow.
then he told me, I'll let you know in October if I get an extension. Well, he didn't tell me that, and he got an extension. So I had the place listed and got my current tenant in. Let me see if I can get this right. I got I had a month worth of vacancy, during which time I took the time to tear out the kitchen countertops and installed granite
Okay.
counters. So that was perfect, and it gave me a little bit of a break. And then Shannon,
Right.
who is a vascular surgeon, 37-year-old girl, studies Aikido. I told her if I had a daughter, I'd want her to be just like you. She's a great gal. I love her to death.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, she signed on 13 months ago. So now I'm
okay.
looking for another tenant. Yeah.
Wow. So have all of your tenants except that very first one been from Furnished
Except the
Finder?
first one. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And like I said, 1 month.
I was gonna ask you to compare the tenant types in your experience, but that's a pretty small sample size.
Yeah, it was
And
real.
then one booking outside of Furnished
Yeah, well,
Finder.
my brother has a neighbor who turned his house into an Airbnb, and
Right.
I don't know if you want to call it lazy, but I don't want to do that much work. Every 3 days. And
Right.
what I like about the Furnished Finder experience is I get what I consider to be, and I've used the KeyCheck to check their backgrounds, the criminal credit, eviction,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. And I've gotten long-term tenants instead of a family for 3 days or whatever.
Right.
So I don't want to run a hotel. It works out very well this way.
mm-hmm.
Right. It's a lot of work, and I think, we've heard from several property owners that your property gets left in much better condition, and those tenants have a little bit more skin in the game. They're treating it as their home and such. But yeah, I mean, I think more and more people are like you, kind of realizing one way or another that this is an option, right? Whereas before it was kind of short term or long term, and there wasn't much in the middle.
Yeah, yeah, and that's I've referred Furnished Finder to a couple of friends who own properties, and they have told me how much they prefer the longer term stable tenants. Not only that, okay, what I found is that you're number one, a long-term tenant, you can get a damage deposit. I accept pets, so I get a pet deposit.
Right.
Now, this girl that I have, Shannon, right now, she works 90 hours a week. It's crazy how much she works. So
That's a lot of time.
Man, and she has this 11-year-old German Shepherd. She hires a service to clean up after him in the backyard, because I have a very big backyard on both sides. And she has decorated the place. I have a lot of artwork up in the one bedroom, and she's decorated the place color coordinated. It's like, wow.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Had a Christmas tree up. I don't even do a Christmas tree. Well, it's yay big, but she's really made it into a home. So it's
that's great. That's really cool.
I want to circle back a little bit to the remodeling. So we already talked about the solar panels. I was also intrigued by the Murphy bed, because, a lot of these investment properties that we're buying, especially those that, try to add ADUs or are looking for opportunities to make more money on their current properties without having to buy a whole new brand new property. So how do you decide when to put a Murphy bed in versus a regular bed for yours, Bob?
Well, this house was built in 1966, and I think it's been added on and remodeled many times. And the back bedroom stretches the length from the living room to the front of the house. So it's narrow. It's 9'6" wide by 19 feet long. So off the bathroom is where the door is into that room. And if I turn to the right, there's a walk-in closet, which is nice. I like it. And then if I turn to the left, there was a 6-foot bifold closet. So it must have been two small rooms at one time. So what I ended up doing was, how do I put it? Well, I figured that was the best option to take up the least amount of room. I live alone, so it doesn't matter. But least amount of room. When I get guests over, open the Murphy bed, queen size, fits perfectly into that closet. I built it into the closet and framed it out so you can't see anything except for the door to the Murphy bed. And so that's why
that's smart.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, sounds like a good use of space.
Yeah.
So lastly, on the remodeling front, what advice do you have for current property owners that are considering some upgrades and don't have the skills that you do? What can you pass along to them?
Well, I think I'll do it from my own experience. If you're going to remodel the house, you want to get energy efficient, number one. And I replaced all the windows in this place with argon-filled low E glass windows. So that would be one thing. Then you want to make it attractive as heck. So that's why I've put in granite countertops in both units. Get rid of vinyl. I don't know. I don't like vinyl. I love the ceramic. We don't do carpet out here so much. So the tile's fine. If you want something softer to walk on, buy a rug. So
right.
Yeah. And then air conditioning, if you're in Tucson, is mandatory. To give them a comfortable environment. Because
I can't imagine renting a property in Arizona without air conditioning. That would be miserable.
It was totally crazy without it. So that worked. I haven't done it so next door, but in this place, I put in the artificial grass. Well, because I adopted a dog 2 years ago now, and he likes that, and it's attractive, and I don't have to mow it. My My son goes, "So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do this afternoon, Dad?" I said, "I'm gonna vacuum the lawn," because run a vacuum cleaner over, and you're all set. But yeah, upgrade to
That's so
someplace that you'd
funny.
like to live, because I'm charging top dollar for this place, and I
Right.
want them to be happy with what they have. And actually, Shannon, my current tenant, said to me, "You've got to upgrade your photos, because this place is a lot cuter than it looks online." So when she moves out,
Oh, good advice.
I'm gonna take the all new picture set and put it.
We hear that a lot, and our biggest recommendation is a professional photographer. Usually costs about $200 or $300 to
Oh, that's
photograph
a thought.
a
Yeah,
property, and obviously a smaller property would be even
yeah,
less. Um, and then you have those in your back pocket, and you can use them over and over and over, because they really are. I mean, these potential tenants, yes, they're reading, but let's be honest, they're looking at the pictures
oh
first,
yeah,
right? And they're reading if they like the
yeah,
pictures. So it's just kind of the world we live in
sure,
now. But well, since you mentioned that you charge a good amount of rent, I'm very curious, and if you're not comfortable sharing, just let us know. But um, since you live in the other half of the duplex, we've heard of kind of this house hacking strategy quite a bit. How has that helped with your mortgage and your expenses? And kind of break that down for us to the level that you're comfortable, just with how that has had an
yeah,
impact on paying for the property as a whole, even your
yeah.
side, right?
Well, let me tell you, when I have it listed for $1,475 a month, $1,475. When Shannon moved in, she said, "I'd like to stay here a year," and I think she was perfectly comfortable
Mm-hmm.
paying $1,475. And I said, "I'm not greedy. I'll give it to you for $1,350 for the year." And
Right.
she we signed a lease. Actually, we did the lease online with KeyCheck, and
Mm-hmm.
it pays that rental pays my mortgage and all the utilities for both units, and gives me
Wow.
Great.
beer money as well. So,
That is very important.
oh yeah, yeah. Retired Marine needs his beer once in a while. So that's,
Do you
Well,
happen
that's
to,
amazing.
yeah, it
yeah,
works out.
do you have a plan to buy any more additional properties?
Um, yeah, I do. And what I'm thinking of is in Vermont, because I'd like to go to Vermont
Oh,
in the
okay.
summers, and then have my brother run this place during the time that I'm gone. And then I would buy a place that I could use in the summers back there. And then my sons, one of whom lives in Connecticut and the other lives in outside of Boston, Massachusetts, could use as a ski house in the wintertime. And
Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
so, we'd trade back and forth, and I'd probably make and let him manage that, renting it out to other skiers during that period of time, and or Airbnb or
Right.
whatever. Yeah. So that's my plan.
Great.
It's nice that you can, with the midterm rentals and the short-term rentals, right? Like you can mix and match that, right? Like if it's high season for ski season, you can go to an Airbnb model, and in the off season rent more monthly,
Yeah.
multi-month, right? Like I think um that's another really good key point that too many landlords overlook, is that you're not, obviously if you sign a year-long lease, you're locked in at a
Right.
year-long lease. But if you're thinking about that short term or the midterm, you can mix them both. It does not have to be one or the other. And then you can save time, like you said, on your calendar for your personal use of the
Yeah.
property.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, the Furnished Finder. I don't know if I would go with Airbnb. that situation. I just I'm not fond of the idea of getting somebody in there who's going to just use the place for a week and get the heck out. I'm not of that ilk.
Right.
So the longer
Right.
term,
It's a lot.
yeah, it's especially with me not being there necessarily during the wintertime, and
Right.
so my son's doing very well for himself, so perhaps he'll be able to just manage it off on the side and during those months, because he's got a lot of friends who he knows and trusts who could do it too. So, but that's in the future after I get this place finished.
Right. Well, those sound like some good plans. So, Kelly, are you ready to move into landlord logistics?
Yes, and today I actually combine the two, landlord logistics
it.
and Furnished Finder favorites, because Bob has a lot of insight to the tools that he really enjoys using through Furnished Finder, and it combines nicely with how he landlords. So let's jump into
Love
the
it.
first question. You mentioned, Bob, that in our intro call that you and earlier in this podcast, how much you value KeyCheck. So which features do you currently utilize through KeyCheck?
Okay, well, what I did with Shannon, for instance, I sent her the link. Now, this is good. It's good because it provides, number one, they pay for it for the background check.
Link to what?
To KeyCheck.
The screenings?
Yeah, the screening. So they have their privacy. They don't share their social security number or anything with me. They input it in all their information, and it comes back to me with their background check, the credit check, criminal check, eviction check. And then what I really like about it is you can customize the lease. So that works out. Can sign everything. She lived and is moving back to Oklahoma where her parents are, and we were able to do all the signatures electronically. So that I mean that's pretty common nowadays. But it's I'm not going to take it for granted. I mean it's wonderful. It's I feel incredibly lucky to be have been born during this time of technology. It's a lot of people, like I say, take it for granted. I came from 3 channels and rabbit ears on my TV. I was the remote control for Dad. So yeah.
Yep.
So it's convenient. It's inexpensive, and actually, I didn't think I even had to pay anything for it. I think all the costs are covered by the tenant. Correct me if I'm wrong.
On the screenings, yes. And then Law Depot is just, I believe, $29 per year.
Right.
So basically,
it's great value for the money.
Very cost
Yeah,
efficient.
absolutely.
So with those leases, is there anything that you like to customize on those leases to fit the property better, or kind of how you like to run things a little bit better? I know, like, I have a long-term property just because it's kind of what we stumbled into long ago, and that house just has some quirks where I'm like, you have to change the air filter every 4 weeks. And I have put that in the lease. So I know, every area, every property has certain things that are, so important that you want to put it on a lease.
I include that more in my house rules that I give them upon.
So tell us about that. How do you make your house rules and make sure that your tenant has signed off on them?
Well, I tell them I'm a good neighbor and I expect them to reciprocate. Absolutely no smoking. I did have a nurse who smoked, and she smoked outside. No pets on the bed. Keep my place clean like you would keep yours clean. Simple common sense things. I don't think there's anything on there that needed to be put into a lease. Out here in Arizona, we have wall heaters because except for the very, very cold months, you don't really need too much heat.
You don't need much.
And so I don't require, there's no filters or anything to change. I do all the maintenance on the place. Shannon has called me up on several occasions and said, would you check this out or whatever. And
Right.
if I had, well, let me back up though, because I do have a filter on the air conditioner. It's one of the wall mounted kinds. It also works as the heater, but the gas heater is much more efficient in terms of electrical costs, for crying out loud. But there's a small one on there, but I change it for them. I'll tell them halfway through the season I got to wash this thing out and take. So,
right.
Because I'd rather do it myself. It's not like in my house I have a gas furnace where there's a filter that I've got to pull out. It's an electrostatic one. I got rid of the paper ones, and I just wash it out once a month, like you said you do on your property. So yeah.
Well, that must be nice to be a tenant and not have to do any property maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, typically, like, Airbnb, short-term rentals, Airbnbs, you're going to do none. Mid-term rentals, you might have to do a little bit here and there, but to be able to have your landlord and property owner and property manager right next door, especially with the experience that you have, I can say as a tenant, that'd be a layer of security that would be pretty nice to have, especially since that property inside and out.
Yeah. I think it's been very good for Shannon, single young lady, and the doctor, the male doctor that was in there prior to her. I don't think he asked me to do anything there. He was pretty independent. He worked long hours too, but yeah, I think it works out very well for them. Yeah, it works out very well for me too. I don't have to travel to go take care of the place. I walk next door.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's and that was another thing of my buying a duplex. I just call it convenient. Yeah.
For sure. So back to the Law Depot leases, you mentioned that you love that you can customize it. And as an Austin, Texas landlord and property owner, I love it as well. So I think what is it that you love that it's in question form and you just personalize the questions and then they go ahead and convert it into like this legal, good sounding document that you don't have to come up with the language, they come up with the language. Is that what you like about the customization?
Yeah, that and the fact that if I wanted to customize something, I could. For instance, putting in the fees for the dog, and I think I mentioned in there in the lease that it was a non-smoking property, and so yeah, it's. I mean. You can do, it's perfect. You can customize it however you want. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's state specific as well. They customize it relative to the state that you live in to make sure it's a legal document. That a lot of people don't realize that a lease is a legal document.
100%. And I love that about Law Depot that you were saying. You don't even have to think of the questions that you're like, oh, yeah, I probably should put something about that. They kind of prompt you the whole way of, oh, would you like to offer this? Would you like to offer this?
Yeah.
And so it's nice not to have to remember what all you might have to put in there. It just kind of prompts you.
Yeah, forgive me. I don't
remember.
It was, like I said, 14 months ago now when we first signed the lease. I don't remember all the specifics of the KeyCheck, but yeah, that's that. I'm sure I utilized it.
You recalled them pretty well.
So Bob, once you have a traveler who's ready to move in, what's your process like kind of from start to finish to get them onboarded, moved in, feeling good, a part of your system? And how long does that take for you?
I have a lockbox where I put in the key, tell them what the code is. After I've received, I have them email me a copy of their ID, their driver's license. After we've signed it, so I know what they look like and who they are, and then they move in, and then once they're in and I said, when you're comfortable, let me know, and I'll come over and walk you through everything. Well, one of the nurses I had here for 4 months didn't know that I had a closet where the ironing board and broom and everything was. I said, right outside the bathroom. Oh, I never even saw that. So it's a small apartment, but these things, I mean, they're important. How to use the
Right.
stove, how to use the air fryer, that sort of thing. So it doesn't take very long at all. And actually, that nurse that I was talking about, who was a smoker, she was an older lady, and she was lonely. And I'd have dinner with my brother and sister over here, and we'd invite her over. And she told me when she left, she said her husband had died like a year prior. And she told me, "You've opened up a whole new world for me. I never, yeah. And in terms of friends and socializing,
Right.
And she and my sister have remained friends. Well, that's almost 2.5 years later. And she moved to Tucson. So, yeah.
That's
Aw.
amazing.
So it doesn't, to answer your question more succinctly, it doesn't take me very long at all. People are pretty smart. Get them settled in, read the house rules, have fun. If you have any questions, you know where I live.
Right.
Awesome. I only have one more question, Katie. So if you have any more, jump on in.
No, I'm good.
Okay, let's wrap it up. Bob, last question. You have 3 years of experience with Furnished Finder. What insight can you pass along to other landlords?
What insights? You mean landlords who have not used Furnished Finder or current?
Sure.
Well,
I'd say
Either
either.
one.
I'd say anyone with less experience than you have, because that's.
Well, I would definitely say use KeyCheck. Number one, having had a background in property management for as long as I did, we always, even when I worked for companies, corporations, we always did credit, criminal, eviction checks. If you don't, you're going to end up losing money.
Right.
Trust your instincts on people. If you're a good judge of character, trust what you feel about those individuals. And other insights. Shoot for the long term if you can. If you're lucky enough, like I've been, shoot for the long term, which generally speaking, Furnished Finder, I don't think I've had one request that was shorter than a month, but I've already been rented. But it's generally 2, 3, 4, 6 months, a year.
Yeah.
So I've just been shooting for the longer term. It's good for them because they're getting settled in. It's good for me because I have a long-term tenant. So yeah, I've had a great experience with Furnished Finder, and I hope I continue to do so. I'm sure I will.
I'm sure you will. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Bob. And just a reminder, everyone, if you liked the episode, hit the button. If you want to ask Bob any questions, feel free to comment, and subscribe if you like our channel. So thanks, everybody, for being here with us today.
Thank you.